welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to be doing a repair on this RZ5424. So if you watched in the last video, I picked it up, it was not running, so went ahead and got that fixed. Ended up being the starter solenoid and some corroded connections. That's all done a full service on that video, go check it out. And then the next thing we're going to tackle, as you can see, this has lost the drive belt. And the reason it lost its drive belt is, this is how I picked it up. So he'd already taken it off, and you can see that pulley's locked up, and it just smoked that pulley and that belt. So this is what we got to put back together. Now, I've already went ahead and picked up the pulley. Part number's right there. So we got to get it back together. But also in this video, we're going to rebuild this deck. And I've got an entire rebuild kit there. What I figured is it already smoked that pulley. I have a feeling these pulleys probably aren't too far behind, though they feel all right. But you can also see this belt's already wearing. So the first thing that we're going to do is you're going to go on both sides of the deck, and you're going to be able to pull these release pins. And this is essentially what's going to let your deck go. So I've got it sit all the way down. There's one. Here is two. Go ahead and grab my washer off of it. Now we're going to go to the other side and do the same thing. Alright, so with those pulled, you want to go ahead and take your setting down as low as it'll go. Of course, you can pull that pin and take it lower, but we don't need to. And what that'll do is let it down enough where you can pull these basically off. And then you'll pick this deck up just a little, and you'll be able to slide these arms off. So, as you can see over here, just lift the deck up with holding it with my foot, and it's off. Alright guys, so the deck is out. Once you do that, you can pull it forward and unhook this bar, and that's it. Super easy to get the deck out. But now you can look back through there and see there's that drive belt shredded. So now I'm gonna go ahead and get this thing prepped for going on there. So what I'm gonna do is take my impact and see if I can't get this pulley off. So it looks like she's gonna be 9/16. So I'm gonna take a 9/16 to that. I'll probably end up having to get a wrench to hold the back side of it. But go ahead and get this off, get it back bolted on to right there. You can see where the big bolt goes through. And then what that does is this sticks up. This sticks up through here, and you put that spring on it right over there. So let me get this together and I'll show you what I mean. Alright guys, so I got it back together, got it through on there, threw a 3/4 here, then a 3/4 on the bottom, torqued it up. So right now she's in place. You can see she still moves. So you want to make sure that once you get it tightened down, that this still does have the capability to move, because that does need to keep tension. Alright, so better look there at the tensioner. So you can see it goes the bolt, washer, the inside pivotal piece, the arm, large washer, and then of course there's our new tensioner pulley on. Now you can see a few things missing under here already. What I've done is I've taken off this crossbar, so and able to take that crossbar off, which you'll see it laying right there on the floor. It's got a washer on each end, and then it's got these bolts, one on each side. So it was pretty simple to get off. I didn't have anything corroded in, so those were a 14mm. You can't really even see that, but it's a 14. And then the clutch, so I came up there and disconnected it, which is right there, that connection you see. And then it had a bolt and a washer holding it up on, which you see right here. That took a 16 mil, and I took it off with the impact, came right off, no big deal. And then of course the belt came right off with it. Now you'll see it has this little bracket right there. What that does is on the back of the clutch, when you put it back on and you line your keyway up, you'll line, that bracket goes in this hole to keep this top from spinning. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna go ahead and get this cleaned up, go grab that new belt, throw it up onto the pulleys temporarily, get it routed around, and then start the reassembly, get cleaned up a little. All right guys, in a minute I'll show you the belt underneath, but I had to get this spring on, and you can see how far we've stretched it to get the tension against it. So you'll see I went ahead and I actually put a washer and then that lock nut to keep that spring on there. Before it just had that nut, which with all the tension on it, it would have never came up, but this is just kind of more of a reassurance. But you'll see I've got a tie strap coming around, and I just hooked it to the front wheel here, and I had a crank on it pretty good. You'll see the tension come off of it to be able to get that belt on there, because I tell you, she was tight. Now I can get up under here and show you. So she goes around that back pulley. The back side of the belt goes onto the tensioner and goes around the left engine or the left drive, then the right drive, and straight back to the main. So that's how you do your underneath belt. Now I'm gonna go back, throw that clutch back on, and then throw that bar back in. And basically come back up here, and I'm just gonna check the torque, check the tension on that big bolt here, make sure it's good and tight. Check the tension on that new pulley I put on, and we'll be ready to fire this bad boy up. Okay guys, so that's back on there, brackets locked into position. I went ahead and zip tied the wire to that bracket, then came over to the diff and zip tied it. And then I'll probably put one more up there. But as far as right now, belt is on, crossbars back together, everything's tightened down. I did use my impact on this because the engine will turn on you, but I just hit it with the impact. I'll look and see if I can find any torque specs, but if not, I think just watching your washer there when it crushes down, and then just giving a little bit of torque past that, probably a quarter turn or so with your impact is good enough, because you don't want to strip a shaft out in the engine. So all that's done. Now, honestly, we'll put the battery back in it and take it for a test rip. All right, now that we got that little test run out of the way, I went ahead and started draining the oil back out of the back part here. It took 11/16 to hold onto the brass part, and it took a 7/8 to take this cap off. So as you can see, she's draining right now, and you can see it's definitely ready for an oil change. Now while this is pouring out there, I went ahead and got my oil filter pliers, and we're just gonna go ahead and take this guy off. Now I know we're gonna get a little bit of oil in here, but I will take and clean this off and everything after we're finished. So get two hands on this guy, get it off there. All right, got her off there. You can see it's got the Kohler Pro Performance filter on it. So the replacement that I do with these, you can get at your local parts store, is this 8537 4HD from, it's a CarQuest. I get it from Advance. Cheaper, faster, easier to get. So we make sure our O-ring's on there. I took some new fluid, smeared it around this O-ring, cleaned up right down there where she goes. So what I do is I'll thread this one on to where it stops, and then give it probably half a turn by hand. So let's get that on there. All right, oil filter is on, tightened down. Like I said, I snug it down, get as tight as I can by hand, and then I crank on it, get a good half turn by hand, make sure it's good and seated. So I usually never put a wrench or anything on it to tighten it. I'll get it as tight as I can, like I said, and then just as much as I can. I went ahead, I used Teflon tape on the threads on the brass, threaded this guy back in, I laid my rag down under here to check for leaks. I added 2 quarts of Rotella SAE 30. So yeah, my Cub Cadet seat. But everything's on there now. So what I'll do is get it started up, pull it in there on the flat, and get another, check the oil after it's basically settled back down. So drive it up in, let it settle down, then check the oil. All right guys, so the test rip went good, drove around, no issues. Now the next step is to get this deck back under it. So I got this kit off eBay. I'll drop the link below. So you see it's got new spindles, all the pulleys for those. Then you got your routing pulleys, 3 brand new Oregon blades, and a brand new belt. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take these off the top of the spindles. So it takes a 22 millimeter and an impact, and we'll go ahead and zip those off because this will give a straight access down to these bolts here that will release the spindles with the blades hooked on. So all the spindles with their blades are out. So basically it took a 1/2 inch this impact, and I broke every one of those bolts because steel into aluminum, well, you know, that doesn't ever hardly work out good. But the plus side, this kit came with all new bolts, and that was one of the things I was looking for because we all know we're gonna need them. So now our next thing is you can move this tensioner around while you're working. No big deal there. But now we're gonna go ahead and zip these guys off so we can get to cleaning this deck up. All right guys, so this is off. This one here, the back one with the spring, is a 5/8. I had to take a 5/8 underneath and hold it, but it took the spring and the whole assembly with it, which is right there. These two here, they were 9/16, I believe. Let me look. Yep, so 9/16. That's gonna take this one and this one off. So now this deck is basically ready to clean. I'm not gonna take anything else off of it, but take it outside and get to cleaning and descaling on it. All right guys, so we got this deck all cleaned up, got it nice and looking good. Wheels back on it. I did have to take the wheels and that hardware off just to get a good paint job all the way around. But now we're gonna go ahead and throw these spindles on. So it's gonna take a 1/2 inch on these. I'm gonna throw some Loctite on them. So you remember these spindles go up through, so your blade can hook on right there, and then your pulleys go on top here. So I'm gonna go ahead, put all 3 of these on. All right, so we got all 3 of them on. I want to note, when I put these in here, I do the star pattern torque. So I ran them all by hand, and then this one, this one, this one, and this one. And I didn't torque them down with the torque wrench because these are steel bolts into aluminum. So I went through and just ran them down hand tight, and then tried to do probably about a 1/2 turn. Got, you know, most of the way there on those, but you don't want to go too much because you'll strip the threads out of this cast aluminum. So here they all 3 are on. Now our next step, I want to go ahead and put these black pulleys on. So if you remember from back, they had the bolts going through. You had the spring that went to here, and then 2 basically idlers here. So I'm gonna go ahead and grab those and toss those on next. All right guys, I wanted to stop and show you. So I got this pulley here on, which goes on this standoff bracket and has a carriage bolt holding. This next one has your big bolt that had the 5/8 on it, and the spring hooks to that eye bolt that we have in. So it moves like so. You can actually see where this thing's got out of hand at some point and grind it in. But your final pulley, which has your belt guide on it, it goes right here on this arm. As you can see it moving. So I just wanted to stop and show you that. It also uses a carriage bolt. So you go up through there like so. But I just wanted to give you that little point as you're assembling it. All right, guys. So I went ahead and put these spindle top pulleys on. So they go directly down to the blade, and those are 90 foot-pounds. So if we lift up the deck here, you'll see all three of the blades are on. Of course, the step goes to the inside. Everything looks good. And again, 90 foot-pounds on that. So if you remember, these new ones though, I shouldn't say if you remember, these new ones, 7/8 up top. And then on the torque wrench, 5/8 on the bottom. So that'll get those torqued in. You wanna make sure you got them seated. You can see they're all the same once they're seated. And I went ahead and threw some red tacky in them. And then you'll see I also routed the belt. So I'll give you a look on how that goes. You'll see basically we'll start over here, goes around, up, that'll go to the engine, and back around this tensioner pulley, around this blade, back side of that pulley. So there's what she looks like. Now the next step is to just get it back under this mower. All right, guys, so I got back under there, got my pins in here, then here, of course, across there, and back there. Now I got this front bar unhooked because I am going to have to do some adjustment on it with the new belt and everything. So to be able to get the tension to come back on this, I had to put a strap around that belt guard, around the tire, and that's how I was able to get tension off of it to put that belt back there on the blade or on the motor. So now that that's off, put this around. Now, one thing that happened is when I done that, you can obviously see this has moved. So I'm going to get under there, loosen that bolt up, swing this back around because it is just a guard. It shouldn't be putting stress on the belt like that. So that's my next part. All right, guys, so that's under there. I went ahead, adjusted these two to where both links coming out were even and that it was tied up against the metal here. Got that back into the guide where it should be. And then I went ahead and set it to its lowest setting where this is sitting flat on the ground. And then I went ahead and adjusted basically all the slack out of these. And what that did was get it to a position to where now it's level when it's sitting all the way on the ground. So when you lift it up, will be even on both sides. And I went ahead and I checked how much bolt I had to make sure we were the same, and we're all good. So now the next step is, this mower didn't come with these guards, but I went ahead and bought them to go on each side. So I need to go get some, basically just metal screws to thread into these holes right here. And this project will be about finished. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so got those on. They look great. Just found some screws, screwed them in. Now the last thing I'm gonna do is, you can see this one here is a little bit further ahead than the other one, like so. So two things we're gonna check. I'm gonna check and make sure the adjustment's good here, and make sure the adjustment's good here. And then we'll go ahead and probably have to adjust it here to get them lined up. All right, so the only adjustment that I ended up having to do is they're gonna be right here. You can see I just screwed it right there, and by measuring in, they were both the same. So we are in good shape there. All right, guys, so that's everything for this one. If you have any questions, comments, drop them down below. I'll answer them as soon as I can. But until next time, let's keep building.